everyone, today we got to play Faeries and Magical Creatures. This is a Kickstarter edition, but before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are amazing and that's what we do here at Legends of Nirvana. Now, this game appealed because it obviously got it on Kickstarter, right?
Obviously.
And it appealed to you because the art?
Well, I figured you like the theme and the art is beautiful, so.
Yeah, I do like fairies. I like mystical creatures. Put me in Fantasyland all day long. All right, now, Rennie, can you tell us a little bit more about this game?
Very little. Faeries and Magical Creatures was a 2023 release according to Board Game Geek, which this is typical of Forbidden Games, unfortunately. They release the regular version before the Kickstarters get their games, which I don't like. The rating on this is 13,171. Rank is 6.5. 2 to 4 player game. Average length of 30 to 60 minutes. Age 10 and up. Design is by Glenn Drover. The main artist is Annie Stagg. And then Jared Bando as well. Published by Forbidden Games. This is currently, well, the base game is $50 MSRP. It's currently available at Card House and Noble Knight for, well, Card House has it for $39.99 and Noble Knight has it for $40. So, you know, pick your favorite. But yeah, it's this. There's not a lot of difference from what it looks like to me in the Kickstarter version and the base, but we'll get into that here in a second.
All right, so let's get down to the quality of the components. So your gardens are basically cardboard chits that are, one side is gardens, one side is concrete paths, or not quite cobblestone, but brick tile anyway. Then you have these cards with a slight linen finish, decent thickness, and then you have your standard like crystal things that you see in a lot of places. I will highlight the beautiful miniatures that are kind of pointless.
Yeah, this is it.
But they are really cool.
I'm guessing the Kickstarter upgrades are those pieces, as well as maybe these gems might be cardboard in the base game. I don't know for sure, but I was expecting more upgrades than what were in the box. And,
you know, these are pretty cool.
They're cool looking,
and they're pretty like.
They're a little. You know, vibrant in color. I was expecting, I mean, I guess it's okay. It's just the standard red, blue, green, yellow, and purple in this case.
I like purple.
Well, I know you do, but it's just, they're there. And they don't serve a real purpose in the game. That's the main problem.
No, they don't.
So, and then you do get this. This is also part of the upgrade, is this giant wooden block. They always, for some reason, do one of these in every one of the Forbidden games. This one has zero purpose in the game.
Well, I mean, okay. I mean, maybe a little. We didn't use it half the time, though.
Yeah, because you're passing around every action, which that's overkill. And you just forget it and just leave it and move on.
Yeah, until you try to be like, whose turn is it? Oh, wait, okay, yeah. So, overall quality of pieces, 6.
Yeah, I mean, the board has a slight linen finish. It's nothing special. The miniatures, if they had more of a purpose, I would maybe give it higher because they are cool.
They are.
The card quality, actually, I think is pretty good, although I'm not sure what size this is. It doesn't look like a full tarot. I'm not sure you can find sleeves that are going to fit this very easily. Maybe. I don't know. I'm probably going to go ahead and go. I'll give it a 6.5 just because of the miniatures and the wood block that it can sit on your table and look pretty.
I know the pretty things just don't have a lot of functionality in this one. All right, so okay, moving on to the theme. The artwork's gorgeous.
It is.
Like, this stuff's pretty.
Yeah, so I think that's the main problem I have with the game is it feels like they had this beautiful art and they're like, let's make a game about it, and then that was the thought process. But we'll talk about that more in gameplay. The biggest concern I had about the art, though, is there's some repeats, and you expect repeat cards would have, with the same picture, would have the same text, but no. Every card pretty much is unique as far as its functionality.
No, so I saw a couple that were dupes.
There might be a few dupes. But as far as, you know, I passed up some cards because I'm like, okay, I already have this card, I don't need another copy, and early in the game, and then looked and I'm like, wait a minute, it's not the same card at all.
No, and the thing is it's not all of the one type is the same, because then you would know to read.
Yeah.
They have a couple of variations, and so therefore, functionality wise, it can be a bit of a hindrance. As far as how the theme correlates with the actual gameplay, you're building this beautiful garden, but you're also trying to gain influence with those fairy creatures around you, and try to get their influence. So there's a little bit of area control dynamic in this. I don't understand. Like, part of me understands but it's not deep.
Yeah,
like,
it's definitely superficial. And,
yeah.
To me, they missed a lot of opportunities for gameplay from the theme, because, like, there's different flower colors within your garden. They serve zero purpose in the game other than to make your gardens look a little prettier.
Yeah, they could have totally done something like that.
That was a completely missed opportunity. And, so the art is there and it's pretty, but it doesn't really have any function in the game whatsoever.
I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty art.
But theme-wise, so great on the art, but overall theme, I feel it kind of lacking. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel fantasy to me. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably gonna give this a 7 only because the art's that good.
That's where I am, a 7 as well. I think the art is fantastic and everything else drags it down.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the rule book. How was it?
Short. That's the good news. The rule book. It's one of the reasons I got to the table yesterday was because the rule book is only 12 pages long. It's a small rule book, mm-hmm. and it has art matching the cover. It's got the contents show the pictures and count of the pieces. The setup is super easy on this because you're basically just getting the pieces out of the box, and then your turns, the actions are so easy and straightforward. It doesn't take any time at all to learn this game. So if you're familiar with any kind of area control games, deck building is a function of the game. It's almost like they threw everything they could think of into this game, but they made it all very simple. So deck building, you've got the tile laying, tile placement, Tetris, polyomino, whatever you want to call it, and area control just kind of thrown together. But it's all simple. And I think the rulebook is actually a very effective rulebook, such as it is. The game is so simple.
Well, yeah, right. We're in the game. What's the rule on the book?
I'll go ahead and give the rulebook an 8 because I think it does a fine job. There is a starting draft variant on the back. Next time if we play again, I would definitely recommend that because we'll talk about that in a second as well. But yeah, I would follow that rule.
Okay. So moving on to the actual gameplay. So you start out with 4 cards in your hand. And if I was the first player, could take I get to decide the action that everyone's going to take. Everyone's going to follow my lead. So this was very similar to Puerto Rico and things like that. But the action is the same. The benefit for being the player is you get to play a card for free. Hopefully you have cards to play. All right, so you play a card. Now you could do either one in any order. So maybe I wanted to play the card after I choose the action. You can do that, or vice versa. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to take a victory point. Now, I'm not going to lie. It was kind of weird that the scoring was in my garden.
Mm-hmm. Which is empty at the beginning of the game.
Which is empty at the beginning of the game. This is my pretty garden. So, all right. Then I'm going to choose the action. Now I have a couple of actions that I can end up choosing. I can end up gain trust, which is basically I get to put one of these cubes down. Now I gotta say that most of your cards are far more effective getting cubes out onto the board if you have the right cards in your hand. I don't think anyone ever used that.
We did early in the game, but the problem is when you do it, everybody else does it. So you're playing one, everybody else gets to play one too. So it really didn't net any benefit by doing that one other than to get you started at the beginning of the game is that, I'm choosing this bucket that I'm going to target and this other person's choosing that bucket.
Okay, I must have not been remembering it because
very
I didn't
beginning
do
of the game. It was like the first 2 rounds maybe.
Okay, I thought I was taking pieces. But anyway, so then the other action is that you can take a garden tile. So there'll be 3 garden, well, it depends on player count, but there's so many garden tiles, and you, if you're the first player, you obviously get the first pick, so that's kind of nice. And then you have the shape. So you get to decide whether you want to do a concrete path or if you want to do an actual garden. Now the key thing is the gardens only score if they are touching, just by one side, the concrete path, right?
You can touch by more sides, but it will only count. And it also doesn't matter how many paths you touch, you'll only score it once.
Right. And the other piece of it is as well is the size of the tile is the amount of victory points it's worth if it's touching. So you really do want to have them touch, especially the larger pieces. So that's one of the actions. Another action is defend a fairy. So basically that's drawing a card. So you get to draw a card, everyone else gets to do the same. One ends up getting discarded with whatever's left over. Then you could also play an extra card, and everyone gets to follow that. Or you get to draw your cards. So for example, eventually your discard's going to get full and you will have no cards. You're going to have to somehow take an action to be able to shuffle your deck and draw back up.
Well, you said draw a card when you take this. This is actually drafting a card to put into your deck.
Yeah,
but
in the discard pile.
Everyone, it goes to your discard pile. So everyone gets to do that when you do it. So you get the first choice, but everybody else gets one as well.
Yeah, so pretty part of the course. Let's talk about thoughts. The card mechanisms were clunky. I don't know.
Well, it's slow to develop, and that's why I recommend the fast, because the fast approach, the starting draft, basically you take 4 cards out of the pile for each player, and then you draft one. You end up with 4 more cards in your deck to start the game. Makes it where they were developed a little bit faster. I think we definitely want to play that way in the future, because the first 4 cards you get in your deck are kind of garbage, and there's no way to trash that we found. So you're stuck with those cards, and if you start with them, first of all, you don't even have a full 5 for your hand, which is kind of strange. Normally you would have enough to be your full hand size. You don't even start with enough for a full hand size.
I mean, heck, I'd like to play this game without the starters and take 4. Just take the 4 cards out of the deck. Because these are pretty...
Because they're going to be hassling you the whole game. I don't know how many times I drew and I'd get my 4 starters back every time and then 1 additional card. And it's like, how did this happen again?
And it's crap is what it is.
Yeah.
Because they're all crap.
So there's that. And then, of course, we mentioned earlier about the art being repeated, but yet the functionality of the cards being different, which it took a little bit whenever I caught that. Because I would just ignore the card and not look at it because I thought it was the same text. That was my fault, I assumed, but I thought that every card was going to have its own unique art, or they would be the same duplicate copies of the same card. I was a little disappointed in the lack of variety in the art of the cards because of that. The biggest problem, though, with the game is the choice of actions, because I don't understand why they opted to have everybody's turn clear the board, basically, and start over again. So if you're the first player, you take your action, and then you remove your piece, and you pass this to the right, which is odd.
No, I think it would be more interesting if you placed, then another person placed, and then I place, and then when it's your turn, you pick yours up and move it.
It would make more sense why you're passing this around if all 3 of you played on the board, because these serve no purpose. Otherwise, I could just say, I'm going to do that action. And so setting this on the board doesn't have any function. It's not taking up space when the next player takes their turn. But
right, so I don't even know why these are necessary if that's the way we're going to play it. We should just have the 5 actions and you choose one, right?
Yeah.
Then the other thing that felt odd is they don't have any singles. Okay, so this is Miranda's OCD coming out. I, when playing a Tetris game, like to make sure there's no holes. I don't mind singles being limited, but that's annoying not having them at all. And I would have liked some way, there should have been a 6th action so you could get a single. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of times that, just one would have really helped me out. I don't know. And it would have been This is Miranda's OCD talking, and you can't. You're the same way. We were both bugging.
But I mean, I didn't let it change my play on my style on my board. I still made created holes, and I didn't sit there and worry about it.
I did.
But one of the things we didn't mention is if you're the first to get 10 of your gems in a region, you get basically the favor of that variety of creature, and they give you their home base as a token to put on your board, and it acts as a doubler. That part I liked. And you get to add it onto your board, and any of the plants that touch it are worth 2 points now per space instead of 1, as long as they're touching a road as well. They have to be on your path. So it took a lot of thought to figure out how to get your path to weave around so you could maximize your scoring of your bushes or your shrubbery, and also get those multipliers in there. And so I had to sacrifice some points I would have gotten by playing tiles that were worth a lot of points as trails, just to get them around. But it worked out. I managed to score every one of mine, but it was it was painful to get it to work. But that was the Tetris piece was my favorite part. The other thing is on the board are icons that you cover up that give you benefits like victory points or playing more of the gems or drawing a card, which those were very helpful. The card drafting, like you said, I think is extremely clunky. The fact that everybody gets one at the same time you do, and there's no way around it.
Yeah, and you end up with scraps sometimes.
And some of the times you've got to just play the card that you start with that lets you discard your whole hand just so you can get the cards to cycle faster. But then if somebody plays a card, that takes an action where they get to play a card in addition to the card, now you're out of luck because you don't have a card in your hand. And that caught me a couple of times or it was that or the draw one because
I did that on purpose.
Yeah,
I did that on purpose though. Like I planned my draws around when y'all were full because you guys had to draw 6 card. And I didn't have that. So I was like, oh, you just use yours, you just use yours. Well, I'm going to draw now.
Now, I did like that there were abilities. Like, I got a lot of cards that let me draw cards. So I never really ran out too often.
I ran out all the time.
Yeah. And then there were cards. Honestly, the best part of the game, I think, was the attack cards. That actually made it more interesting because the attack cards let you shift people's gems on the board or remove them. That made it more interesting, at least. But yeah, I felt like everything was done very lightly. There wasn't a lot of thought put into each individual component. It was just like, let's throw these things at it and make a game around the art because the art is so pretty. And I can't say that any of them felt like they were fully fleshed out or developed.
Well, and there's no like one side affecting the other, right? Yeah. I mean, your cards kind of affected both sides, but not really. Mm-hmm. And that's my thing. Well, your cards really just affected over here.
Well, some of them affected other people's decks. Like Adam took cards from you.
Yeah, but I
made people discard cards to draw cards.
Yeah, but you don't really see interaction with the garden very much.
No.
I think there was some opportunity of integrating the pieces together that I think was missed. And that's why I think each thing feels a little clunky to me because there isn't that, streamline of everything kind of flowing together that you see in really expert games. So let's talk about scoring. What's your score for this?
I've been torn on this one because, I like the fact that there's more things to it. I just wish they were all developed more. I'm probably going to give it a 6. I think is where I'm at because I do like it better than base Catan if I was just playing Catan, but I don't like the fact that they didn't flesh out any of it to my liking. And the color, like the color thing on the board really bothered me because it seemed like that was an absolutely missed opportunity to have cards that took advantage of the scoring on those. Like you get points for how many of a specific color.
Well, or when you place down a tile of that color, you got to place a thing over here because you're kind of
something that took advantage of those colors.
That would have actually been really good. Like, if you place pink flowers, you put stuff in the trolls. If you place green, I think that would have made a lot of sense.
But the way it was, there was no interaction with the color. They had zero functionality, and that was really frustrating. Other than cosmetically, it made your garden look prettier.
Well, I mean, yeah, because at one point we had all the same tile, just different colors.
Yeah.
That could have made that choice a lot more interesting
Yes.
if by picking that color you could have. So they're definitely, I think that's the problem. I think they got the game but didn't fully flesh it out.
Yeah.
Because this could have been so much more, and it's not.
Yeah.
I'm at a 6. I'm barely at a 6, but I'm at a 6.
And the other thing is, like you mentioned, moving your guy across the board for the scoring didn't feel thematic because you're putting bushes, so you got a guy creeping through the shrubberies now to get it. Is once you develop your board enough, otherwise they're just walking through a flat scoring area. But there was no interaction with the guy moving to the background, so that it was just it's like let's save space by not having a score track.
Yeah.
And it really didn't add, it detracted, because now it's like, well, if I want to put a tile, I have to move the guy out of the way. And if you forget, something distracts you and you forget where you were.
Well, and I think it would have been interesting when it hit, like, if it hit the thing, then you got the thing as well. And then that way you have to be careful about where you're placing because you want to place where you've already been. But you're not going to have room for that. I think that would have been very
There were so many things they could have done differently and added to, I think, and it just felt like missed opportunities were abound in this game.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast today, and hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.